From damsel in distress to girl boss success, the Mario movie had me stressed on which Peach would join our quest. Though I'm thoroughly impressed with how Peach was expressed, and teaches Hollywood to reinvest on how to brand a princess. As marketers, it's important to know who our target customer is. And one of the best tools to define this customer is by using a brand persona. Brand personas are tools that help us create a visual so we can better understand who this person is. To do this, we'll want to answer questions like, what's their societal status? What scares them? What are their hobbies? Who are they friends with? What challenges do they overcome? And so many more. The key here is that the more specific we can be, the better we can understand who we can sell our product to. Speaking of which, I bet you're the type of person who loves Nintendo content. So I recommend subscribing as I plan to tackle how a certain monkey got robbed in the Mario movie. When Peach was first introduced in 1985, it was clear that she was the damsel in distress archetype, a princess who was kidnapped by a creature and needed a man to save her. I know it's very one-dimensional, but it was the 8-bit days, so there wasn't much to work with. So in future games, they slowly started adding more traits, like baking a cake, to give her character depth. Which yes, I know, baking really isn't a personality trait, but this was the 80s and 90s, so if Hollywood gave its stamp of approval on it, then other media, like video games, would adapt to it. Honestly, I'm glad this era of Peach is over since it's very backwards thinking, but ironically, in trying to fix this female version of buyer personas, they accidentally created a worse one. Fast forward to 2014, and the wildly successful entrepreneur, Sophia Amoruso, released her New York Times bestseller book, #GirlBoss. Sophia is an extremely hardworking individual, and her story of being able to turn a few $100s into over $28 million in profit is simply amazing. Now don't get me wrong, problems like the glass ceiling effect are unfortunately still prominent in today's society, but what's special about the book title of #GirlBoss is that it gave a very clear direction on how to create a buyer persona for this kind of consumer. Hollywood also caught on to this buyer persona, and by caught on, I mean they only got the negative parts.
When incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me.
I hate to pick on Marvel again, but some recent examples of this bad brand imaging of a girl boss in action stems from Captain Marvel and She-Hulk. I understand that this representation is still needed in the media, but the problem is that it shouldn't be a character's entire personality. Case in point, a few years ago, my personality revolved a lot around Persona 5, and looking back at it, making Persona references every chance I had can be seen as insufferable. And this really hit hard when one of my friends roasted me and said, just because you need the word persona to spell personality, doesn't mean you need to make it one.
Ooh, self-burn. Those are rare.
When looking back at the Mario movie trailers, you could see that Peach was very much marketed as a girl boss, and it got me worried, because this is not the Peach that we know in the Mario games. From having Luigi be the new damsel in distress, to seeing her get disappointed during Mario's training, it was starting to spell out all the traits needed for that negative girl boss persona. Although, as many of you watching this already know, this wasn't the case. And instead, we got the best version of Princess Peach. Earlier in the video, I emphasized how the more specific a buyer persona is, the better you can understand your target customer. In the Mario movie, we can see that this was in full effect with Peach, as she was both a damsel in distress and girl boss. Later in the movie, Bowser does kidnap Peach, but we can clearly see that this was voluntarily done on her own grounds, but only because she did it as a way to save her kingdom, as she was putting others before herself. Then earlier during the training sequence, we can see that Peach clearly dominated the training grounds compared to Mario, who took longer to complete it. Now Illumination could have very easily made Peach scoff at Mario's attempts and call it a day, but instead of mocking Mario, she sympathizes with him and tries to boost his spirits. And this is important, because as much as the girl boss mentality revolves around being your own boss, a huge part of leadership is lifting others up to see them succeed. And that is exactly what we see Peach do in the film. In all honesty, Peach ended up being my favorite character in the entire film because of this. And as a marketer, it teaches us an important lesson. As useful as buyer personas are, as humans, we have 3D personalities, so we can't easily be defined with a few characteristics. In this case, some days, we're a damsel in distress. and in others, we're a girl boss. So it's important to keep the full person in mind when creating characters or brands that we want our audiences to resonate with.